Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Relationship Matters. We are having empowering conversations about relationships. I am just finding it more and more important for us to have these candid conversations about healthy relationships and how to build healthy relationships. You know, we've seen it coming out of COVID and everything going on. There's just so many relationships in crisis right now, and my heart is just to provide conversations and tools to help empower people in their relationships. And I'm just really excited to have Derek England with me today. I was on his podcast with Family ID, and I just enjoyed the conversation so much. I wanted to have one with him on my platform so that we can talk about these things. So, welcome, Derek. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Mark. It's an honor to be here, and it was a blessing to have you on our show several months ago, and just to
Yeah.
get to know you over that time,
Yeah.
and to see what you are doing with Relationship Matters and how God's using it.
Well, I couldn't believe how aligned Family ID and the principles that I teach were so aligned, and I had never heard of you before, and vice versa. And here we are now developing cross-pollination and friendships. I just love how God puts people together at the right time. So for
That's
everybody,
it.
just for your sake, Derek England is the executive director of Family ID. Family ID focuses on increasing the positive impact and fulfillment of families by helping them identify their unique vision, purpose, and values. Derek joined Family ID in late 2019 after a successful career in mortgage lending. Having completed Family ID for the first time in 2011, it was always held in a special place in his heart. Derek was brought on to help with growth of development of Family ID through technology, fundraising, systems, processes, and insight on raising a young family intentionally. And I think that key is a key word we're going to talk about today. Derek and his family live in Oklahoma City area and is blessed to be married to Gina for 18 years. They have two kids, Sawyer, who is 13, and Jack, who's 12. Boy, your family's a busy one. Their family is focused on shining strong in this world. I love that. Shining strong in this world. I would assume that's your vision statement.
That's it.
And yeah, so Derek, thanks so much for being here. And I said it in the intro there before, but I just really feel like families are just drowning in busyness, in inflation, and in all the things going on. And I know that it causes stress on families, but there are ways that we can insulate. There's ways that we can actually have the family pull together in these times rather than blow apart. So I think this interview is very timely because I know people are going to walk away with some real practical tips on how to pull their family together through this time, and actually maybe even use this time as an opportunity to build intentional connection in their relationships. So, Derek, why don't you just tell us a little bit about Family ID, but also let's just jump in about this whole intentionality thing is really, I think, what separates Family ID. And by the way, folks, Family ID is a nonprofit. That's why Derek was brought on to help with fundraising. When I said that, they're a nonprofit. So, and they're impacting a lot of lives. And so, Derek, give us a bit of an overview, and then just let's jump into that. Why is it so important to bring intentionality?
Absolutely. In fact, that's what uh, Family ID, the ID stands for intentional direction. And so, kind of the overview that I give families, or that elevator speech is, you come up to a family and you say very specifically, "All right, Mark, tell me what the Gordon family is all about." And when you
Right.
ask the average family, right, if you asked me or if you asked Gina and I that question, um, 12 years ago, we would stumble through it just like most everybody, saying, well, I mean, we love God and love each other and try to be generous, but
Yeah.
so it's hard to really put handles on it if you've never actually thought through exactly what your family is about.
Right.
And I truly believe, and we at Family ID believe that, hey, God put you in your family and put all the members of your family together for a purpose.
Yeah.
And if we don't pause and think about and reflect and discover not necessarily create, right, but to discover what that unique purpose is for your family, then we lose it. It's
Yeah.
like the seed that's thrown on ground and gets overgrown by the weeds and the worries and the troubles of the world. We just get
Yeah.
pulled away. We just get pulled away.
Yeah, and I think what happens when we do that, Derek, is when we live by accident instead of on purpose, what happens
That's it.
is the waves of our past can come and I think of a tsunami. The wave of our past can come and overshadow, drown our current family. So maybe some pain from the past, some
Yep.
unresolved issues from the past. All of a sudden, when we're not actually intentionally moving somewhere, we are in its like it has a much greater chance of overwhelming us. And I think that is really key to what you teach and what you provide for families. This whole idea that, you know what, we actually can move forward with purpose together as a family. It doesn't take away from individuality. It just
Oh, absolutely
enhances,
not.
I think it enhances individuality.
Absolutely. It sure does. I mean, if you think about it, so I didn't start this. I was blessed to be introduced to this. Like you mentioned in 2011, Greg Gunn was the gentleman that started this, and he started
Mhm.
it in 1997, and he led it for a couple decades before I was introduced to it. And it was just I sat in a men's retreat. He brought up these questions of how many of you work for an organization that has core values and mission statement and vision statement, then most everybody raises their hand.
Yeah.
And then the question is, well, how many of you have those things? That's vision, purpose, and identity for your family. And it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
I should be doing that. Like the thought never even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And then once it crossed that thin veil, I couldn't unthink that thought of,
Yeah.
wait a second, we got to have purpose and we have to have core values. And to your point, core values do not take away from individuality. It
Right.
enhances them, and it
Yeah.
creates this culture inside the family of no, 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 no. This is who we are. And when you know who you are, you'll know what to do. And I heard that from a pastor long ago, and it stuck with me ever since, right? And it's the same thing. When you know who you are as a family, you'll know what to do or what not to do. And
Yeah.
you'll know every member of the family, adults and kids and grown teens and adult children, everybody understands, no, 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 because I have these core values, I can appropriately reflect them, or I can engage in that area out of strength and out of my cup being full, instead of needing to engage in an area to find identity or to fill my cup, or out of weakness or vulnerability, right? it
Right.
it, it just as we say, we want families to create inside the home a culture worth following. And it's
Wow.
it's it's possible, Mark. I
It
mean,
is.
it seems daunting. I tell you what, it
Yeah.
seems daunting for most families, and especially families that maybe there is some brokenness or
Yeah.
unresolved conflict or
Yeah.
woundedness. It seems like that would be almost impossible. Um, but it's not. It takes intentionality.
Yeah, so I think that's a really worth underlining there, because I know some of my listeners will be listening and saying, "Well, sure, that's fine for you families that are,
That's right.
healthy." But, my own story is my family was not healthy, but you got to start somewhere. And I think that
Hmm.
is a key to this is don't let the daunting task of it overwhelm you. Actually get excited about the potential of seeing your family going in the same direction. Get excited about how many of those struggles it could solve if you were all on the same page. And then it's just a step by step process. It's not perfect. You might even have to do it a few times. You might have to, go through a process of developing that vision, mission, and values a couple of times and adjust and edit and all those kinds of things. But at least start. So what could somebody do to start?
Good question. So, in my opinion, the first thing you can do is like, okay, stop. We're calling a family meeting. Turn off the TV, leave your phones in the kitchen, whatever. Like, let's get together and
Yeah.
just say, hey, what? Let's have a family meeting and specifically say, okay, if we were to identify some things that we love about ourselves, what would those things be? Just do
Excellent.
that. It's as simple as that. And I can guarantee you, say, hey, we're not leaving this room until everybody comes up with one thing that you love about this family
Yeah.
and stand on that.
Yeah.
We have a ton of free resources. Not necessarily a plug for Family ID, but we do. We have a
Oh,
ton of
you
free
do.
resources
Your
that
app is
are
excellent. Your
uh,
the Family ID app, download it. I tell you, it's got so many good little tips, and I love the little emails I get each week, like,
that's right.
reminders. Do this weekend. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we do. We've got a text system that we will text you or notify you through the app, and we call it dinner discussion, and it's on Sunday afternoons when those come out. And we
yeah,
have a staff member that develops those, and they're great, thought-provoking, conversation beginning questions is
yeah,
what they are. And I'll tell you a secret, Mark. So this is just between you and me. Don't tell
yeah,
anybody else. But
yeah,
um, Gina and I did not land on core values and mission statement the first time that we went through a Family
uh,
ID
that was
event.
my next question, is to tell me how you and Gina, how did it go with you guys?
I mean, it was good. It was empowering and encouraging to go through an event and to talk through and have those conversations of, okay, who did God create us to be? And what do we feel like? Where do we feel like we can impact his kingdom? But it was not, um, it was an event, but it was also a process. I mean, over the next couple of years, we would put on some values and
Yeah,
try them on and see how they feel, and then take them off and try on something else. And it took probably 2 years before
right.
we like fine tuned exactly
Yeah,
what we know. And you mentioned it, shine strong, and that's where it was. It was, we are called to be, as in England. That's my last name. So as in England, we're called to be a beacon of light and a pillar of strength to a dark and crumbling world.
wow. So that's your vision statement.
That's our vision statement, and that's what our kids know. Hey, when that's what you are as in England, is you're a beacon of light and a pillar of strength. So go shine strong out there
Right.
for Christ, and we've got 5 core values that specifically support that. And it's
What are
not
they?
always easy. Okay, so we are radically protective of our quality time. We have unwavering integrity, enduring family unity, prayerful in decision making, and excellence in everything.
Nice. Nice.
And I'll tell you, it's not always easy to be prayerful in decision making.
Well,
Um,
well,
you just
and
forget.
that's the key, isn't it, Derek? These are practices.
That's
Sometimes we
right.
say values, and values mean it's something that's important to you, but it's not really important to you if you're not practicing it.
That's
And so
right.
you can name a value, but then if you look at the life and the family, life of the family, and no one's practicing that value, it's meaningless. We've got to get, in fact, it could even be more harmful. What we want
Right.
to do is get values from the wall to the heart, and where we're actually living them out. And so it's experimental. It does take time. Let's look at that. Don't get discouraged, folks. Just look and say, okay, we seem a little off track here. We're not really practicing our values. It's really great for parenting too, isn't it?
Oh, it's unbelievable because when everybody agrees on who God created you or created our family to be and what we stand for, is it creates this foundation of who you are, and
Yeah,
you can reference back or call back to,
right.
well, hang on, time out. My kids are the best kids in the world, and so we very rarely have to pull out the integrity card, right? Like, but hey, guys, we have unwavering integrity. That means when everything else is going wrong, we will do what's right.
Right.
So what's right in this instance, right?
Right.
And it's an accountability, and you have in our family, my kids have the authority and ability to call me out on that and to say,
Right.
hey, dad, if you're saying we have integrity, you need to be doing what's right.
Yeah.
What's
That,
right in this situation?
that's beauty. That's beautiful. Now, did you include the kids in the process of
So
developing
yeah,
all of this?
so
Yeah.
yes and no. When Gina and I went through it in 2011, our kids were young. They were like 2 and 3 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
not at all. But then we actually did go back through it in 2019 and involved Sawyer and Jack, and it really reinforced the
Mm,
whole process and the core values, and it enriched who we are because now they have a specific buy-in to say, yeah, I help decide those are the standards for our family.
yeah.
And it helps create this it also creates this decision making paradigm for your family or for you individually, because it
Mm,
is, well, hang on, if I am this, then that decision lines up with my core values and that one does not.
right.
Well, hey, there you go. It's an easy decision to make. I'm going
So
to
it
go.
actually, so actually by doing this, you remove some of the busyness and clutter, if you will, of our lives, because it's easier to make quicker decisions as a family because that doesn't line up, that does line up. And
That's
so
exactly right.
actually we would actually probably save ourselves some busyness by having that, because we would say no to some things that we've said yes to.
It's exactly, well, we say it, we've got a quip that we say, and that is, hey, where family identity is strong, peer pressure is weak.
Oh,
But we're,
mic drop.
but
Say it
we're,
again. Say it again.
okay, where family identity is strong, peer pressure is weak. But
Wow.
where family identity is weak, peer pressure is strong. In
Oh,
fact, it's insurmountable. And that goes for kids and adults alike.
that is
I
so
mean,
good.
just the pressure from life.
Yeah. That is so good, Derek, because it's so true. What a great, and what, boy, your boys are just at that age now that it's so important. If
So I've
folks,
got a daughter and then a son. Daughter and then a
daughter,
son.
sorry, yes,
So
yes,
yep, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So your kids are at a critical age to be able to be practicing these things. It'll protect them from a lot of harm during teen years.
Oh, you're exactly right, Mark. I mean, Um, so if that identity, and this is something we touch on in the workshops, is if that identity is rooted in the family.
Right.
Picture two kids, right? Two
Yeah.
teenagers, two teenage boys who one knows who he is from his family, and one who it still kind of questions.
Hmm.
And the one who knows who he is, when his buddies say, "Hey, I'll tell you what, jump on that skateboard, hold the back of that truck, and let's see if you can fit in." I don't have to do that. Not
Yeah.
at all, because I already know who I am. But one who is questioning, who is still looking or searching for that validation or that I guess that ability to become specifically in that situation. Hey, I'm looking for
Yeah.
manhood. I'm looking for growth and development.
I
Let me
want to
see if
be
my
liked.
buddies. That's
I want to
exactly
be,
right.
yeah, I want
I
to be
want to be
liked.
liked.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So if
Um,
they already know that they're valuable and that they have a strong sense of destiny, then they don't get that vacuum can't suck them up
That's
as
exactly
easily.
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I'll say this to whoever's listening. Again, back to the point that these are fancy words, and that might be overwhelming or daunting to
Yeah.
come up with fancy words. And I'll tell you a little story from my
Mhm.
wife. So my wife, she grew up. She's Italian,
Yeah.
and her maiden name is John Filippo. And so here in Oklahoma, we just say Filippo.
Right.
And and in fact, we say Flippo for short because
Right.
that's, yeah, it's even easier. And growing up, she always heard, "You're a Flippo. You're strong.
Mm,
You can get through this. Hey, you're a Flippo. You can get through this."
right.
And that sometimes is all that it took for her to get through some incredibly difficult times in life, is
Right.
just that one little statement of, "You're a
Right.
Flippo. You're strong. You can get through this." And so
Wow.
it doesn't have to be some
Yeah.
amazing, eloquent statement. Just
Platitude. Yeah.
yeah, just one thing for families to hold on to, because so
Mm,
much in this world is broken and turning and changing every day.
yeah.
So much of it is like chasing after the wind,
Yeah.
and just something to identify and unify that family is powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Family is so powerful. We know, that it was God's design was family,
Right.
but we also know that our culture and our family and overall are under attack today. There's a lot of there's an identity crisis, not
Yep.
not just out in the world, but in the church as well. And so a lot of times I love the dual meaning of the ID, right? It's intentional direction, but it's also identity.
That's
And
it.
and I think that the stronger we can have, I call it, when our identity is founded in God's love, it gives us confidence, but I call it Godfidence.
Mhm.
When we know who we are and who we were created to be, there's a confidence that comes with that doesn't allow me to be shaken by some of
Mhm.
those things that are going on. And I just find that kids today need that more than ever. Marriages need that more than ever, because when you have a sense of going in the same direction, flowing together, you stay together. Um, and so that's so good, Derek. So what was tell me about the between deciding on what it is and then the practice of it. What are some hiccups that came along for you that made it tough to live out sometimes, or that caused you to pause and say, hey, we got to hit the reset button here?
We got to hit the roll. I'll tell you the first one, Mark, and
Yeah.
that is remembering.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just that. It's just that simple, is
Yeah.
remembering, oh wait, hey, I'm not supposed to lean on my own understanding, but I'm supposed to, wait on the Lord and invite him into this. Specifically, right, prayerful in decision making.
Right.
It's easy to make a decision on my own. It's like I can make a decision and move on, but it's not always the right decision. And when I remember, and that's a good practice that we've developed in our house, is just, hey, I'm going to go to this meeting. I'm going to go, hey, there's this work trip coming up. And a common question in our home is, that sounds great. Have you prayed about it?
Right.
It's that simple. It's
Yeah.
that simple.
But we have people, like, I do have followers that are watching this that maybe don't know what they believe. They might believe in a God,
Sure.
but doesn't have personal connection. I always tell them, you can, even if you don't necessarily know if you believe in God or you don't have a connection, relationship with God, why don't you ask him anyway? Because the pause and the reflection, he's not a respecter of person. He loves all of his creation. So
Mhm.
you can easily ask him and you'd be surprised how many times you're going to get an answer. And then that will build the connection. You'll know
That's
he's
right.
real if you're asking. So just the
That's right.
exercise of asking, I think that it creates a curiosity, it creates a pause for us to be able to just hear, ask for wisdom, ask for input, and you'd be surprised what you might have an impression in your heart. All of a sudden, a thought comes into your mind. Oh, I got a solution. And
That's right.
yeah,
That's
so I
right.
just wanted to pause for a moment and mention that, because I think it's people get scary. They think, we're not, Derek and I are not talking about religious stuff, folks. We're talking
Right,
about
right, right.
faith and relationships. We're talking about relational stuff. And so we both approach God as relational, not as religious. So I just wanted to mention that. But keep going, Derek.
No,
So
and, and
you
and
guys,
I'm glad you did.
yeah.
I
So
mean,
you
and
guys,
that one's specific to our family. I
yeah,
just use that as an example, but it
yeah,
is for us, some of the challenges between deciding and living them out is remembering. It's, hey, humility and understanding that something that I want to do might not line up with what the rest of the family is.
yeah.
There's a pastor out of Atlanta, Georgia, and he says, hey, marriage is a race to the back of the line. It's a
I
race to the back of the line.
like
And
that.
sometimes I think family is the same way, right? Like, hey,
Yeah,
I will put myself last, even if it's something personal that I want to do, so that the family can have unity together and
yeah,
move forward in the same direction.
yeah. So good. I love that line. It's true. We should be asking how we can serve one another, not how we can control each other.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So then so you and Gina are in this process. You're starting to establish this. What, and so you said, just start, um,
Yep.
keep it simple,
Keep it
uh,
simple.
keep it prayerful, like seek help, seek
Right.
guidance. And what was the next thing for you guys? You started to put it into practice.
Write it
Uh,
down. Write
Write it
it
down.
down.
Good one. Write it
Yep.
down. Yeah.
Because if it just lives up here, I mean, I'm telling you, Mark, I might go on a specific, I won't say diet, but like, hey, try to eat healthier and eat better. And that I forget half the time.
Yeah.
I'll be shoving a chocolate chip cookie in my mouth and realize, oh man, I was supposed to not eat those. Right. So if you don't write it down, it is really challenging to remember to live it out.
Right. Good point. I
So I
like that.
think that that is
And and
absolutely
and
key.
display it prominently somewhere.
Absolutely.
I love that verse in the Bible. It says, write your vision down, write it boldly, and so that anybody can see it passing by. It's
That's
like,
right.
let's make it known. If the family agreed to it, let's put it in. I always recommend families put their vision, mission, and values in the dining room, or
Yep.
kitchen, so when they're eating, they can look at it and review it even, and look, hey, how are we doing? How are you doing with that value, or how are you doing with that?
Yep.
You know, and where are you struggling? Where are you succeeding? And it actually creates great dinner conversation.
Oh, it truly does. So we've got a resource. I'll make a small plug here. We've
Yeah,
got a resource that we created 2 years ago, and we're in the process of creating it again for next year. And we
yeah.
call it a family prayer and goal journal. And
Mm,
it is incredibly powerful. It lives on our dining room table.
right.
And all it is, Gina helped me develop it because it's not, when I told her what I was developing, she said, oh, babe, please don't create some 365 page, do this every day kind of. That's the last thing I need is one more thing to do. Okay, got it. Loud and clear, babe. Um,
Yeah,
and so she helped me design this beautiful journal that it's 2 pages, a left page and a right page, but it
awesome.
helps the family to stay on track with goals. Or if somebody asks you to pray for them, write it down so you don't
Right,
forget to pray for them.
right,
It gives you a spot for, hey, if God's answered some prayers in your life, write those down so that
right.
you can celebrate that. And
Awesome.
there are some spots to write down, hey, if we're going to focus on a core value this month or a family value this month, what are we going to focus on? And
Mm,
ours lives on our dining room table so that, just like you're saying, hey, let's pick it up and
yeah,
have a conversation. And it can be
yeah,
as simple as, hey, how are we doing? Has everybody prayed for grandma? You know,
right.
it's like it's that simple. And it begins this conversation. And most importantly, it enhances the relationship of a family. And it doesn't have to be at dinner. It can be
Yeah.
in a car driving to a baseball game. It can be, it
Mm.
enhances the connection and relationship and bond
So where
in a
can people get
family.
that? At your website?
You can get it on the website. You can just search
Yeah.
Amazon, Family
Yeah.
ID, Prayer and Goal Journal.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yep,
So
we'll be
there you
putting
go,
out
folks.
next year's pretty quick.
I'll put the link in the show notes for the app and for the website and all that kind of stuff. So you can go there and just click on it and get that resource. That's a fantastic resource.
Yeah,
Keep it
it's a
simple.
shameless plug, but it's keep it simple. I mean, I'm telling you, if you can remember and you can write it down and you can have a conversation about it and talk about it often,
Yeah.
and celebrate the great things about your family. I
Yeah.
know that everybody in everybody's family has at least one thing worth celebrating.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
um, and if that's the case, then celebrate it. Talk about it often,
Mm, that's
and
so
just
good.
say, "Hey, I am so glad that you are kind. You know, you are really kind." Or you are, Derek, you are really handsome. You are just so, no, I'm kidding. But like, hey, everybody has one thing that
Yeah.
you can celebrate about them,
Yes.
and build words of encouragement.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to hear
Well,
words of encouragement?
yeah, and we got again, it's intentional direction. You
That's
got to be
it.
intentional, actually plan, strategize, calendar it. That hey, yeah, I've told men like sometimes we forget, we get busy or whatever. I tell them put it right in your calendar to phone your wife and tell her you love her, or put it
Isn't that
right
the
in your
truth?
calendar, right on your to-do list. Hey, buy flowers for my wife. Because you plan ahead does not remove the romance, does not remove the intent. In fact, I think it speaks more love because you actually
Right.
took effort to make sure it happened. But I think we take our relationships for granted too often, Derek.
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
that's why I just love what you're doing so much, because intentional direction. Be intentional. Empowerment means to give power to somebody. And
Hmm.
so we want to empower them. Encourage means to give them courage. So I think when we do that intentionally and not when it's only when it's asked for, we build a bond and a connection, that emotional intimacy that we need in our relationships, in our family relationships, can come through that affirmation, through that validation when it's not being asked for is the most powerful time.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean,
Yeah.
put it in your calendar to ask your wife on a date.
Yeah.
It just do it. And here's okay. So you're asking, how does that process work, right? Like,
Yeah.
so have a conversation and talk about it. Write down if everybody agrees or everybody has an idea. Write it down.
Yeah.
Remember to talk about it often, and then I would say follow through, Mark.
Yeah.
Follow through, because I can promise you
Yeah.
it will not be convenient. It
Yeah.
will not be easy.
Yeah.
It will not be the most popular or your favorite thing to do. There will
Yeah.
be something that appeals greater than that,
Yeah.
but there's nothing more important or valuable. Hey
Yeah.
guys, hey, I know the big game's on. I
Right.
know, I completely understand
Yeah.
it's the season finale, but tonight we have scheduled, 30 days ago, we scheduled a family meeting, and it's time that we just sit down for 10 or 15 minutes and
Yeah.
take a pulse.
Yeah.
How are we doing? How are you doing? How
Right.
are you specifically doing right
Mm.
now with that big thing that you were struggling with or dealing with, or that big stressor in your life?
Yeah.
Golly, isn't that
I
what everybody wants?
Isn't it so? Like it gets me excited just hearing you talk about it. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'm thinking about things I could do more intentional. Even my kids are grown and gone, and I have grandkids, but there's still things that I intentionally do to build relationship with them. There's still
Right.
things I intentionally do to connect with them. And so, and I'm just sitting here thinking, man, I I I've I could probably do that here. It's coming around. I should be putting it into my schedule again. I still take my daughters are, in their in well, one's just turning 30 and the other one's in her 30s, and I still take them on daddy-daughter dates.
Oh,
And
yes.
and then once in a while they'll message me and say, "Hey, I think it's time for a date. When can we do that?" And I just think it's so important to establish it when they're young. I used to do that when they were
Mhm.
little. I'd open the door for them. And so that's so good, Derek. So let's just recap. So start start
Start
simple.
somewhere.
Remember,
Yep, that's it.
write it down,
Write it down.
practice it
Yep,
intentionally. What
intentionally.
what else? Anything other?
Um, no, I think that is where it is. I mean, you
Yeah,
start, you write it down, you live
yeah,
it out, and you stick to it. You stick to
yeah,
it intentionally because
yeah.
it's not easy.
What happens, Derek? Let's just talk for a minute because we do know there's families in crisis.
Hmm.
Let's say the tension's there, the marriage is under a lot of stress and tension. A lot of times that means either fighting or ignoring. Uh,
Hmm.
um, so somebody might be listening to this and their marriage is in crisis and they don't even know where to start. They don't know how to do it. We've talked about the broader brushstrokes, but in your experience with families, what were some of the things that started the steps towards restoration, towards healing, towards, what are some things somebody could do themselves? It's easy to say, well, they should do this or they should do that.
Yep.
But what is somebody that's listening to this? What are some simple steps they can take right now to try and start the healing journey?
Well, I would say, I mean, for me, it's lots of prayer. And
Yeah.
like you said, hey, pause, reflect, meditate on the Lord and pray about, hey, what is the best thing that I can do right here? And I believe that God will meet you where you are. And
Hmm.
he will, like you said, give you a thought or an inclination or a direction or a peace. His peace that transcends all understanding will come upon you.
Yeah.
Secondly, it is, I believe that our words have the power of life or death.
Right.
And that there is no place that is more true than inside the family.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest woundedness for individuals did not happen outside the
Mm.
walls of their home. It
Yeah.
happened inside the family.
Yeah.
um, I can think, and this is a little bit of a tangent, Mark, and I'll get back to it, but
Yeah.
I can think of instances where some of the greatest bullying happens inside the home
Yeah.
instead of outside the home. And
Yeah.
parents write it off as though that is just kids being kids.
Right.
And unfortunately, unresolved conflict or sibling bullying is, I mean, it's gone on for thousands of years, is sibling rivalry. But we always say at Family ID that that's one thing that you can do to begin to turn the ship and turn the tide in your family, is to put an end to unresolved sibling conflict.
Right. Right.
Don't let kids, don't let children or siblings, really, regardless of
Yeah.
their age, have unresolved conflict.
Hmm.
Um,
That's good
and
advice for a married couple too.
oh,
I always say
it
when you have an unresolved conflict, resentment is what goes into the foundation of your relationship. So
mhm,
instead of strength, you're actually weakening the foundation
that's
because
it.
you're carrying that, you're not solving it. And it's so important to have those conversations. And so, yeah, so that's good. So just so be intentional with your words,
Be
words of
intentional with
life.
your words. Yep.
Yeah.
And I would say speak life, speak encouragement.
Yeah.
Um, and those that are in the times of crisis, I think it still goes back to say, what is, we have found when a reaction doesn't match the situation, that is
Right.
evidence that there's more to the story.
Yeah.
You
Good
know,
point.
something is under the surface, hurt,
Yeah.
boiling, and I think it's okay to call a timeout and to call
Yeah.
and to say what's truly going on, and to own yourself,
Yeah.
even if even if you feel like you're 1% of the problem and the other person is 99% of the problem.
Yeah.
Own your 1% and say, I'm going to change what I'm doing now, because the bigger picture, the vision of a healthy family, or the vision of um, a family that at least doesn't yell or fight or isn't in crisis, right? If that's the big vision, okay, I'm going to work towards that beginning today
Right.
by owning myself, my words, my actions, and I'm going to focus and speak words of life coming outwards towards the other members of my family.
Yeah. Another thing came to mind for me, Derek, is as you were talking there, is I wonder, like, what about the person, like the wife, let's say, whose husband isn't cooperating,
Mhm.
doesn't want to do this, doesn't want to take the time. Um, is it possible for, like, just a mom or just a dad, like, husband or wife, whichever, doesn't matter which one, but if one is kind of uh, distracted and other, is it still important, or do you have to have everybody involved, or can just one person initiate this with the kids, and then maybe that person would be drawn in, um, or do you think it's just better not to even try until you have unity?
No, I think we say work with the willing, work
Right.
with the willing.
Right.
And, um, I think back on families that it was a mom and the kids, and perhaps the dad wasn't completely engaged, um,
Yeah.
or wasn't on board with this, or just didn't, maybe he was too busy at work and didn't need one more thing to do. And The mom said to the kids, okay, guys, this is what we're working on. And these are the values that we need to work really hard to portray and establish and live out in the family. And eventually you hit it right on the nose, Mark, when you're saying, well, hang on, something in the culture in the house is different.
Right.
What has changed? And the dad began to become aware of this
Right.
and turn towards the family
Yeah.
and then get on board
Yeah.
with what they were doing. And it works both ways. And I'll call out, it works with, you know, single parents as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
families that are, maybe they split custody between the families and there's a mom and a dad,
Right.
or a blended family on one side, is it works just the same to say,
Right.
okay, hang on, no. For me and my house, when we're here, these are the values that we're going to live by, that we're going to stand for. And this
Right.
is, most importantly, this is why we are doing it. And I
Right.
think that that's an incredibly important
Mm,
step in the process, is
yeah.
to, all right, these are the values, and this is why we're standing for these values.
Yeah. So
um,
good.
and and even if the other parent or the other family has absolutely no rules, no
Yeah.
values, there, it's
Uh,
just the Wild West over there, right? Even if it is, okay, hang on, these are the values that we stand for here, and this is why, and this is who I think God created our family to be, and how we're going to
right.
impact the world. So I'm asking that even if you're over there, they might not hold you to this standard, but
Right.
I'm asking you to hold yourself to this standard,
Right.
because that's who we were
Wow.
created to be.
Wow. That's so good. I think, a lot of times we need to believe the best of our kids,
Hmm.
and they live up to or down to our expectations of them. And I'm not saying put undue expectations
Right.
or become dogma about it. I'm just saying model it and encourage them, let them know, speak life into them, and then challenge them to rise up to that,
That's
because you are a Gordon, because you are in England, regardless of which household you're in, you are still, in my kid, you are still Justin Gordon. You are
that's
still,
right.
yeah. And so I want to uh, really underline that. And for solo parents, especially, you will create a shelter and a safe place
That's
for
right.
those kids to land when they're feeling out of sorts. And it's going to be hard anyway. The kids are always impacted by divorce and by remarriage and new families and blended families. You cannot eliminate the impact, but you can minimize it. And I wrote an article one time on how to co-parent after divorce. And at
Mhm.
the end of the article, I kind of wrote and said, by the way, if you're not divorced yet, you can apply these same principles and it will save your marriage.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
Right.
I mean, that's the
So
truth.
yeah. So Derek, we're getting closer to our end of time. So I want to make sure is there anything in your heart to share that you would like to leave a deposit in my listeners today, and or anybody that might come along and watch this or listen to it? Is there any kind of uh, prompting in your heart to share?
Yeah, uh, I would take my own advice, Mark, and I would say, let me encourage you that no matter where you are, if you're in a family that is always in green pastures and on mountaintops, you can identify your family values and how God is going to use you to impact your society and your community and those that live around you for a purpose. And
Mhm.
even if you're not in one of those families, you're in one of our normal families where hey, it's not always
Yeah,
great, and there is conflict and there is struggle and there's stress and stressors from the outside world. Um, I would encourage you to just start where you are
yeah,
and to have those conversations. And you can do this. You can create a safe place inside your home that is foundational on identity, and you can stand counterculture to the rest of
yeah,
society and be a um, be a pillar of strength and a beacon of light so that others look at you and say, hang on, something's different here. Can you tell me what's different about you?
Yeah.
Because it does. Even the smallest word of
Mm.
encouragement or grace handed out to other family members, or understanding that you guys are on the same team.
Yeah.
You're on the same team and you have a specific purpose and identity that you've been created for, and to go live out to impact the lives of others. No matter where you start, you can do it. And that's
Yeah.
what I would like to leave you with today.
Yeah. That's so good, Derek. Thank you so much. That's the biggest thing, right? Like, you know, I don't know about you, but I'm not an expert because, I'm book smart, or I got it all right. I actually learned from making mistakes. I
That's
learned from
exactly
when I
right.
was wrong. And
That's
so
exactly
my
right.
expertise comes from failing, but I failed forward. I kept moving forward.
Right.
And so I want to encourage you, listeners. I agree with Derek. Just like, you can do this. Like, this isn't, you don't need expertise to do this. You just need
Mhm.
the tools, and you've got the tools. Again, go to family id.com if you're listening to this, or if you can see it on the screen if you're watching, but www.family-id.com, and find out where the next seminar is near you. Find out where, because you have seminars that will actually help people go through this
That's
process.
right. That's
And
right. We have live seminars and we have digital ones that somebody can,
yeah,
if you'll sit through that, at the end of it, you and your family walk out with core values, mission statement, vision
yeah.
statement, and at
So I really,
least a starting point. They might not
yeah.
be perfect, but it's a starting point.
Yeah. So I really want to encourage you to go to their website, check that out, find out where they are. And of course, you can always buy my book. I have the path in there. Exactly. I lay it out with exercises on how
Mhm.
to build your own vision, mission statement, and whatnot. And, but go to Family ID, download their app, get that Sunday discussion tool, get that journal tool. It's just really, really powerful tools for you. And I want to just say one last thing. Ask for help. Don't
Yep.
don't try and
Oh,
do it
that's
all
good.
on your own. Ask for help. If you want to reach out to Family ID, they will put you in contact with people they know, and local people maybe to you. And same for me. If you reach out to me, let me know where you are. I'll try and find somebody to help you out. And I'm willing to as well. If you want some coaching, you need some help getting this process going, we're here to do that for you. You're not alone. You're
That's
not
it.
alone.
That's
That's the
it.
key. You're not alone. So, Derek, thank you again so much. We appreciate you, and I appreciate Family ID, and so grateful to the Guns for starting this ministry all those years ago, and just really grateful for you to carry on the legacy, carry on that important work that you guys are doing. And thank you for this today. It was so practical, and so encouraging at the same time.
Well, it's an honor. It's an honor to carry the torch. It's an honor to be here with you, Mark. Thanks for having me on. And I do echo what you say, that if we can help, if we at Family ID can help in any way, we have tons of free resources. Happy
Yeah.
to connect you with families that have walked through it.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. I love that you make so many of your resources free. It's just really shows where your heart's at. And so
Mhm.
that's awesome. So thanks everybody for watching. Episode 3 is in the can here. And keep listening. We've got a lot more great conversations coming. And a lot more deep conversations coming as we continue this journey in season 2 of Relationship Matters. We're having empowering conversations, and I hope you were empowered today. We'll talk to you next time.